This is Ben from Testive, and we're looking at a natural sciences question from the ACT. This question says, in the passage, the author indicates that the early sightings of the Antarctic coal sack were by professional astronomers, explorers, atheists, or Sir William Herschel. Okay, so I know that we have read about most of these groups of people in the passage, so we're going to need to get a little more specific in finding this information. Luckily, I know from reading the passage that coal sack is pretty much in quotations throughout the whole passage, and it's pretty easy to scan through a passage for something with quotation marks around it. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm actually going to kind of scroll through and find where it says coal sacks and kind of mark that for myself. So we have it right here. We have it again right here and again right here. So I'm going to look at each of these and see if I have a description of who cited them first. Let's see. In this second paragraph, I don't have any mention of... I have a mention of an observer, but just a generic one. I don't have a mention of any astronomers, explorers, atheists, William Herschel, anything like that. We can probably rule out Sir William Herschel. The reason that we can rule out Sir William Herschel is that there's no mention of coal sacks in that paragraph. So, that's not exact, but we can probably rule it out. We'll leave it open in our minds a little bit, but I think we're going to be able to narrow it down better. So then that leaves this last paragraph here. The most famous of the coal sacks lies adjacent to the constellation. That doesn't really tell us about the first sighting of them. Let's come down here. Okay. To them as well as to those who listened in rapt wonder to their tales, the coal sacks seem to possess some occult connection. Okay, so who is them? Let's go backwards. Them. It is not alone the conspicuousness of this celestial vacancy, opening suddenly in the midst of one of the... Okay, I'm going to skip ahead. With which it was regarded by the early explorers of the South Seas. Early explorers. Okay, so it doesn't say that they're the very first people to see the coal sack, but if we jump ahead, we can see that there was some sort of fear about coal sacks as having an occult connection. It talks about the coal sacks forming the basis of many a sea dog's yarn, which I guess we could think of as like a myth. So we're probably talking about pretty early stories here. So I think it's fair to assume that it wasn't professional astronomers that saw them first, because we know that explorers saw them. There's nothing about them being atheists. I think they're trying to trick you with the talk about... some talk about religion in there. So I think explorers is our best option here, especially given that the question says indicates. It doesn't say that the author says it directly.